So it has been quite a while since the game released and also since my last video. Honestly, I ran out of decks to showcase anyway, so I've been thinking of other things to do to tide myself over until the next expansion releases, and today I decided to make a compilation of various mechanics and card effects and weight interactions that aren't super obvious immediately to the game. I got inspired because I noticed a lot of newer players and some people just don't really know how certain mechanics work, and it's not really their fault. The game does a bad job explaining some of the things I'm about to cover, and other things are not explained super explicitly either. So anyway, this is just a general compilation of various mechanics and interactions that you should probably remember if you're playing this game, and hopefully that will help you in the future. It shouldn't be just for this expansion, it should apply to future expansions, and if more weird things show up in future expansions, I will also consider making a video for those as well. Anyway, for today we're mainly going to cover three categories. The first is general game mechanics, the second is keywords and card effects, and the last one is order of operation when various effects are activating at the same time. So yeah, let's jump into it with the first one. So for the first section here, I thought I should cover game mechanics and controls that you should probably be familiar with if you're playing this game for any decent amount of time. The first is the power of the right click. If you don't know, during when you're playing the game in the middle of a battle, the right click button does a lot of things for you. Here's a few things that you can do. If you right click on a card in your hand, it just plays the card so you don't have to drag it out, I guess, if that's what you want to do that. You can right click on an amulet to engage it. This is most useful if you're playing something like Haven where there's a lot of amulets to engage, or you just hate swiping your mouse back and forth to go and click that button. And of course, if you right click on the follower, you can evolve it as well. They'll give you this menu to choose what kind of evil you want to perform if you have enough evil points for either. So if I just evolve here, and they just evolve it, so I guess these are all things you can save some time with. If you go into the settings here, there is a control section and you can set keyboard controls, and there are a lot of other things you can make use of, like shortcuts for bonus play point, opening the battle log, ending turn. One notable one for if you are a returning player is display card details. If you are used to old shadowverse, they used to make it so that you click on a card to show its details. By default in this game, if you mouse over it, it shows details. So if you find that hovering very annoying, you can change it to left click like I have here, because I'm just more used to it like this. So these are some of the right click controls that you can make use of in game. So if you're playing a lot, I guess you can make good use of them. And the right click actually works in the deck editing screen as well. As you can see, I have the deck editing screen here. Normally, if you want to put a card in, you drag it up. If you want to take it out, you drag it back down. But if you just right click on the card, it'll put it in while it's down here. And if it's up here, when you right click on the card, it'll just take it out. So that's another little trick you can use to make it faster if you are making quick changes into your deck between games. So next, let's talk about Super Evolution. I'm just gonna Super Evolve this Bone Mancer here. And by this point, you are probably all familiar with the fact that Super Evolve followers are completely immune during your own turn. Or not immune, but they are indestructible and invincible during your own turn. But I've noticed that some people don't realize this persists beyond the first turn you evo them. So as you can see, one turn has passed, but if I play Reaper's Death Slash, the Bone Mancer continues to live because it will continue to be invincible. So that's another thing you should pay attention to. The game does technically tell you this in the tutorial, but I think a lot of people miss it, so just nothing to keep note of, I guess. This is especially important to remember if you're playing something like Abyss, of course, as you saw with cards that target your own followers. You can make use of persisting Super Evolve followers to make use of your stuff like Soul Predation or Reaper's Death Slash and get value out of it that way. It also helps if you are trading into enemy followers because they continue to be invincible, so you can keep trading into your opponent's followers without taking any damage. So this next bit is actually about Super Evo as well, but let's watch here. As you can see, I'm in the tutorial now and they are telling me to try to attack with this Super Evolved Quick Goliath, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. As you can see, it attacks and then it will deal the 1 damage to face. You're probably already familiar with this at this point, there's no need to go over it. But when they show this tutorial screen, they tell you that every enemy follower destroyed by a Super Evolved follower are blown away. Notice they don't actually specify this only applies to when you attack enemy follower. And to back this up, here's a clip with doing this with Medusa. So as you can see here, I have a super evolved Medusa. Now Medusa's follower strike destroys the opposing follower, so she never actually attacks, or like she doesn't directly attack it. You can declare the attack, but before she actually attacks it, she'll destroy the follower, and that still triggers the super evil ping. I'm just gonna go ahead and pass here and let my opponent play more followers for me to target, I guess. So this is the bot, that's why it's emoting at me. Anyway, the point I want to make here is that, so even though that is how it works, if I, for example, play Thildao here, and I super evolve him, this is a case of a super evolved follower destroying an enemy follower as well, but as you can see, it will not ping them for the 1 damage. So there seems to be some kind of factor for how it decides whether it does the ping damage or not, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. Maybe it's because Medusa's one is triggered by an attack even though she's not completing the attack. So yeah, little quirk, I guess, of Super Evil that you can keep track of and see how it ages over time. Now for a little bit on Crests, I guess. This is pretty basic information, but you might not know it because I don't think it's directly stated. So we have a Crest here. Special type of card effect that goes next to your leader. You can have up to 5 unique crests at a time. It's not directly stated, but by default they can't stack. So you can see there's nothing stating in the effect that this effect can't be stacked because now that crests are an official thing, they can't be stacked by default. So as you can see here, I already have Balto's crest active from when I played him last turn. If I play him again here, you can see nothing happens. There is no overwriting, no restoring the countdown to 4, no extra crest. It just stays the same. So if I pass turn here, you will see I only take 1 damage, and then my opponent has lethal on board, so I will die. Ready? So next we're going to talk about shuffling cards back into the deck. By now, if you've played against or with Spell Boost rune, you are familiar with how Declimb will retain Spell Boost on cards when it shuffles cards back into the deck. And this actually works on other kinds of buffs besides Spell Boost as well. So you can see here, I'm going to play Angelic Prison Priestess. And her Evolve effect will discount an amulet in my hand. Here I have Avian Statue which costs 4. I'm going to go ahead and discount that Avian Statue. And then I'm just going to go ahead and pass to my next turn here. So as you can see, now I have a 3-cost Avian Statue in hand. Now I'm going to use Ruby to put Avian Statue back in my deck. If this was the previous game, that would have gone back to costing 4. As you can see, I have Rodeo here. His Fanfare will summon 3 randomly different named amulets from my deck that cost 3 or less. I'm going to go ahead and play him. As you can see, what happens here is that he will be able to summon the Avian Statue that cost 4 originally, but we discounted, so that's a little trick. There's one more which I will get to right now. So here's another setup. As you can see, I have Bale here who has been discounted to 4 cost using his own effect. We're going to go ahead and play Ruby to shuffle Bale back into the deck here. We draw a different Bale, you can see, because it costs 8. The one in our deck should cost 4, and we can verify that using combo. So here we put ourselves the combo 4. So this should draw Bale if everything works correctly, and as you can see, it will draw the 4-cost Bale. So these are some cute little interactions that I guess are doable now in the new game. I don't think they're useful for anything. I thought you want to use this in the real game, but I mean, it's a little trick, I guess. Might come in handy in the future. So for our next setup here, we learn about what counts and doesn't count as damage. So as you can see, my opponent has a Ceres here with Barrier. A Barrier, if you don't know what it does, you can read here, reduces damage taken by the follower or leader to 0 once before being removed. So basically what it means is that when Ceres takes damage, she will not take damage. So one thing that I've noticed a lot of people that maybe come from other games aren't familiar with, 0 damage does count as damage as well. So if I hit with Bellringer, as you can see, it does remove the barrier here. So after that, my Burn Knight can trade in. So yeah, that's a nice little trick I guess you should learn. So the next point is about the turn timer. Now, if you are not familiar, they have reworked the turn timer. It is now actually slower. Before evolving is allowed, and then once evolving is allowed, you will get the full turn timer. So you can see here in the background, I've included sped up footage of turn timers on turn 1 and turn 4 going second, so you can see how there is definitely a noticeable difference between how much time you have to play when you are able to evolve versus when you are not. So next we talk about keywords. These are interactions and just points to note that I think revolve around the keyword itself instead of the general mechanics of the game. So I think this one's pretty important. I found a lot of people don't know about this one, probably because in other games, Death Touch or whatever your equivalent of Bane in other games is works a bit differently. But in this game we have Bane. Bane says that destroy any follower that attacks or is attacked by the follower with Bane after damage is exchanged. So this might be a little bit hard to understand, but as we've said earlier, 0 damage is considered damage. So even followers with barrier, like for example Gino here, as you can see, he gets a barrier. So when he trades into Theodore, he takes no damage. But even so, when he trades into Ceres here, he will still die from the Bane, even though he doesn't technically take damage from the barrier. So that's something that you should definitely take note of if you're playing Sword especially. Next is how Drain works. This is especially important if you come from Hearthstone and their lifesteal. I believe lifesteal works both ways. As you can see, if we read Drain here, after attacking, restore defense to the follower equal to damage dealt. So this only works when it's the attacking follower, as you will see here. I will go ahead and evolve this bat. And if I hit into their mummy, I will heal up 3 because that is what Drain does, and I will pass here. But if my opponent's fighter trades into my bat here, I do not get any more healing from that combat. So this is another thing, I guess. The Drain only works when you are the one attacking. So the next keyword we want to take a look at is Evolve or Super Evolve. And of course the greatest offender of what I'm about to explain is Kagemitsu, so we will use him as an example. So Super Evolve is a keyword here that when you Super Evolve a follower using Super Evolve points, they will activate that effect. So yeah, if I Super Evolve Kagemitsu here, he will do his effect and he will gain Storm, which allows me to hit face, and we can pass to the next turn so that we can talk about what I want to talk about, which is kind of stupid. So if you've ever tried, if you're a relatively new player, you're probably not familiar with this keyword. So what you might have thought of is using Olivia, and then we can play another Kagemitsu here just for illustration purposes here. If we Super Evolve Olivia, her effect will be to Super Evolve another ally follower. So we're gonna evolve this Kagemitsu, and you will see that this Kagemitsu will of course not gain Storm because that is not how the effect works. So this is a very important thing to keep track of. You must make sure that you know this because it's an easy to make mistake if you are not familiar with the game's mechanics. But effects that evolve a follower will not activate their evolve or super evolve effects unless stated otherwise, and to my knowledge I don't think there's been an effect that evolves another follower while activating their evolve or super evolve effects. So definitely keep that in mind when you continue to play the game. So this next part is about everyone's favorite ward, Lloyd. As you can see, Lloyd has the ability that your opponent can't select any cards other than this one for abilities. So that protects all of their stuff like Orchis. That makes sense, of course. We're gonna go ahead and try to play Ravening Tentacles Face here to deal 5 damage. And as you can see, we can only target Lloyd. So even though it doesn't specify they can't target leaders either, weirdly, Lloyd will force you to target himself for cards that target face. And there is a reason for this. It is because of a mistranslation. If you read the Japanese text, it actually doesn't specify that it requires cards. And one more thing I wanted to test here that I don't know what will happen is if my opponent has 2 Lloyds, so we can go ahead and pass here. My opponent will go ahead and drop a second Orchis. And now with 2 Lloyds on the field, we're going to see what happens. Logically, it says that any other cards can't be selected, so that means that this Lloyd will protect this Lloyd and the other way around. So I shouldn't be able to target anything, but apparently it makes it so that I can target either Lloyd, which I guess is much more balanced. It would be very stupid if having 2 Lloyds means that you can't target anything. So yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Anyway, let's move on. Next, let's look at the strange interaction surrounding Otohime's fan and Rodeo's fanfare. So as you can see, I have Rodeo here. His fanfare is to discard a card and summon 3 random amulets from my deck. If I play Wing Statue here, my hand is now empty. Let's see what happens when I play Rodeo. So he still is able to summon the amulets even though I have my empty hand, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass to my opponent's turn. Obviously Rodeo's not super meta relevant right now, but let's look at more meta relevant cards. So here my opponent will go ahead and engage their Otohime's fan, which is unsurprising. Here though, they go ahead and play Ruby, and as you can see, even without a hand to put back in your deck, without a card to put back in your deck, you can still play Ruby and draw a card that way. I'm gonna have my opponent empty their hand again. So now after a bit of quote-unquote playing, I guess, you can see it's my opponent's turn and they have one card in hand. Now watch, my opponent is going to go ahead and engage Otohime and discard their card. But as you can see, even without having the cards in hand, you can engage Otohime's Amulet as well. And this one is actually relevant because Face Dragon is a pretty decent budget deck. So yeah, these are some weird interactions around fanfares that discard cards. I expect there will be more in the next expansion, so we will be able to see how they will interact in the future. So next we have this weird interaction with Ralmia and Doomwright Resurgence. You can see Doomwright Resurgence, select 2 artifact followers in your hand that cost 5 or less, summon an exact copy of each. And Ralmia is fanfare, select 3 artifact followers in your hand that cost 5 or less, summon an exact copy of each. For some reason, while they have the same wording, you can't play Doomwright Resurgence when you only have 1 artifact in your hand, but you are allowed to play Ralmia with 1 artifact in your hand. I don't really know why it works this way, but I guess it's something that you should take note of. Anyway, on to the next one. This time we learned a little bit about card order. So let's look at 2 cards. First we have Rage of Serpents. Rage of Serpents deals 3 damage to the enemy and then 2 damage to myself. Meanwhile, Aragavi deals 3 damage to both leaders. So let's see how the animations compare. So first we're gonna play Rage of the Serpents. Rage of Serpents, and we're gonna target our enemy's face here. As you can see, you can clearly see that there is a time difference. Let's look at Aragavi instead. We are gonna go ahead and play Aragavi, and then we will evolve him. As you can see, it's at the same time. So let's see what happens when we play Rage of Serpents. So what happened there is that card effects are processed in order. So they do we dealt 3 damage to them, and then before we could have taken the 2 damage from the next part of the effect, the game processes death because my opponent reached 0 defense, which caused me to win the game. So basically the point is that this game processes death in between card effects, even if it's like on 1 card. So I guess the most important interaction is with Rage of Serpents because you do 3 damage to your opponent and then 2 damage. So if you only have 2 health left, you can still play Rage of Serpents if and only if it's lethal when you play it. So definitely important interaction to remember. And let's look at what happens if we evolve Aragavi instead of playing a second Rage of Serpents. So as you can see here, we've gotten ourselves in a similar situation. Both leaders are at 3 now, so we're gonna go ahead and play Aragavi, of course. So the question is, what happens when we evolve Aragavi? So in theory, it'll do 3 damage to both. So what happens when both leaders reach 0 at the same time? To preface, in the previous game, when both leaders hit 0 defense at the same time, the turn player is the loser. So if we evolve Aragavi here, as you can see, we end up being the one who loses, even though both leaders take 3 damage. So next we have a lesson on clash effects. Usually the way it works in this game as a general rule of thumb is that for similar types of effects, the turn player takes precedence. So in this case here, we have Reno, Luxwing Featherfolk with Clash, deal 1 damage to the enemy leader. So in theory, if I were to attack this, we would both take 1 damage and we should both die, and that will result in my loss. So let's see what happens when I attack Reno with Reno here. As you can see, my opponent is the one who loses. So for this next bit, we'll talk about the order in which countdown and last words effects activate for crests and amulets. So as you can see, we have a board set up here. I paused the replay. I actually encountered this earlier today, so I conveniently had a good bit of footage to show off for this section. Anyway, as you can see, my opponent has a countdown crest for Lapis, who will summon Lapis once it's done, and you can see its countdown is at 1. Similarly, they have this pack of the Beast Princess on board, which also will summon a follower on countdown and is also at 1. So when I press play on this replay, my opponent's turn will begin, so watch carefully what happens. So as you saw what happens there, the crest popped first, and then the amulet popped, and then after that the Crest last words was activated, which summoned the Lapis, and then finally the amulet's last words activated, which summoned the Tiger off field since there was no board space. So the order of operations for this is probably very important to remember, and I think it will come up quite often in the future. It's probably only not really coming up now is because this Amulet Haven deck isn't really meta competitive in any way, but once this stuff starts mattering, you should definitely take note of how this works. So yeah, just a little bit of discussion that I felt was important. It's kind of it sort of mirrors how in the original game leader effects would activate before board effects. So yeah, that's all I wanted to cover, I guess. So those are all the mechanics and interactions I prepared for today's video. There is probably a very likely chance that I've missed some, so if you've thought of any that I've missed, feel free to I guess comment about it, and then we can all learn from it so that we can have built a sort of portfolio of niche interactions that we can understand, which will maybe help us play the game better. Anyway, hopefully this video was helpful to you if you are a newish player or if you're just not super familiar with all the intricate interactions between various cards and mechanics. Anyway, that's it for today. See you next time. Bye bye.